Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining from. My name is Olarewaju Onita, and I'm the founder and executive director of Seed Care and Support Foundation. You're all welcome to this webinar. We're starting immediately, and I'll just like to say welcome, and I hope that you have a great time as we dive straight into what we have for today. I'm sure you can see my screen, and the title of this webinar for today is Harnessing Education Public-Private Partnerships, Case Studies in Action. And again, welcome.
Lanray, sorry, just to mention, we're seeing the presenter view, so we can see the notes on the side and the next slide.
All right. Thank you very much. So like I mentioned, the title of the webinar is Harnessing. Let me just share the slide again. Are you seeing the slides now?
Perfect.
All right.
Correct.
Thank you. I'd like to just say welcome again to the webinar. So before we start, a few housekeeping rules as we begin. This webinar is being recorded, and we will be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Please share any questions you have through the chat or the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. We'll be able to pose it to the presenters and panelists during the Q&A session, post the panel discussion. So this is the journey we're going through today. There's going to be an introduction and context setting. There are going to be some presentations. We will have the panel and Q&A session, and then we will close. It's a 90-minute journey today, and I hope that you have a great time as we kickstart. Okay, so I'm here to introduce our organization. Like I mentioned, I'm the executive director of Seed Care and Support Foundation, and we're a locally led nonprofit that supports the affordable non-state education sector to deliver access to quality education for all children by providing advocacy, evidence, and a learning network. At Seed, we envision a world where all children, no matter their background, have access to quality education to thrive and succeed. And you can learn more about us at www.seedfoundation.ng. Our work is with critical partners, role players, and stakeholders in the education ecosystem to transform the lives of children in Nigeria. And we really work under three core pillars. We do a lot of advocacy through our advocacy hub. We work with our evidence lab, where we pilot and test different solutions with our affordable non-state schools. And then we have a learning network where we provide training and support at the school level to our schools. So if we look at the levels we work in, we work at the systems level, we work at the school level, and we also work at the community level. And that's SEED. So moving straight into why we're here and the context. We are aware that the non-state sector has really assumed a large role in education delivery over the past 2 decades, especially in low and middle income countries like Nigeria. And in many countries, partnerships between government and non-state providers are growing in order to increase access and improve quality education. So we see a situation whereby government-aided non-state schools operate in about 171 out of the 204 countries through various programs such as outcome funds or as technical partners to governments at different states and national levels. And given that we know that governments are the custodian for education, the overall responsibility rests on them for quality education provision. But we also understand that government cannot do it alone. So today's webinar is to help us all as stakeholders understand what is possible in terms of partnerships, how to go about developing and creating sustainable and impactful education public-private partnerships. And that takes us to Nigeria and the recent commitment by our Honorable Minister of Education in Nigeria, Dr. Maruf Tunji Alausa, at the launch of the National Policy on Non-State Schools in Abuja on the 16th of July, 2025. He said aptly that the government cannot and must not do it alone. We already are aware that Nigeria is a very huge country and education provision cannot be done by government alone. So with this policy shift, which formally recognizes public-private partnerships as central to achieving its No Child Left Behind agenda, this webinar is coming at a great time for us to be able to explore how we can harness education public-private partnerships. And just yesterday, I was going through LinkedIn and I realized that my friend and brother from Ghana, he posted something that I wanted to share. Just this month as well, Ghana was able to list 60 private high schools as approved by their Ministry of Education to participate in their free senior high school policy, whereby highlighting Ghana's government's efforts to foster partnership with the private education sector. This really syncs with what our government is trying to do. And, I asked him, what exactly is going on? And he was like, there's a free senior high school policy in Ghana, and there's been advocacy that the government schools, which are the public schools, cannot, provide that senior high school education alone, and they had to work with private schools, non-state schools. And so through that process, there was assessments done and 60 private schools were selected. And through this partnership, these schools will be paid for providing education to the children that get to go to these senior high schools. And these are the kind of public-private partnerships that we're going to be exploring today. It was just like a coincidence that this popped up on my LinkedIn yesterday, and I was able to speak with him to be able to explain how this works. And this is something that would kickstart in the 2025-2026 academic year. And this is actually similar to what our Honorable Minister has talked about for our own basic education as we move into 2025-2026 academic year. And so, we see countries around the world trying to ensure that, education is being provided to all children, but that government alone cannot, do this. And that takes us very quickly to a video that I'd like us to watch from one of the case studies we'll be showcasing today. And sit back, relax, and watch the video. I'll be back once it's done.
Is a not-for-profit organization running a network of private secondary schools. Currently, we operate in 36 secondary schools in Sub-Saharan Africa, and also supporting our partners through the Respectfully program in Uganda, helping 215 secondary schools.
The I&I program started in 2018. It was co-designed with PEAS and rolled out to 10 pilot schools. And based on the positive findings, it was later rolled out to 50 schools. And now we have 215 schools, including 15 private schools.
We collaborate with this team in the formation of digitalized inspection tool, which is currently used in all the secondary and post-primary institutions. We carry out inspection jointly with the PEAS team, and we share our reports.
We closely work or collaborate with PEAS and DES to see to it that quality is brought into the schools. We go ahead to do inspections with test teams, whereby we don't end at only inspecting and walking away, but we share out some recommendations, support our schools to do better in the inspection process. So the inspection that we do between Ps and Ds is more of coaching and mentoring our school leaders to perfect themselves well.
We support them by monitoring the progress they are making towards their school improvement journey. The end game really is to help them own the school improvement process and enjoy the trajectory of school improvement.
The program has helped to train me in leadership and management skills, which I've gained that are helping me to take decisions in the school which are geared to the improvement of the school. And in that regard, we have developed a school improvement plan that is leading us. It is a campus in the school, which has helped us to set targets that we are achieving. The teachers have now learned to collaborate with one another in the departments. And when the desk team comes, they are able to conference, they are able to share with us knowledge, and the teachers have appreciated that. So we see that this collaboration is really a driver to school improvement.
Our partnership with the Directorate of Education Standards, these interventions are going to be scaled up such that every learner can benefit and thereafter improve and unlock their potential.
It's a partnership to improve the quality of education in this country. Of course, in developing countries, the governments cannot handle it single-handedly. But with a partnership like this one, we know we shall reach there, shall improve the quality of education.
Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the video and it helped to set a tone for our discussion today. So very quickly, we're moving into the case studies. Remember, the title of our webinar includes case studies in action. But where did we start from? We have an E-PPP report coming up. And one of the resources we employed when we were looking at the case studies that we're going to be able to share with all of us once the report is ready. We used the Global Schools Forum Government and Non-State Partnership Evidence Hub Toolkit, where we worked with their categorization framework to be able to understand the different levels and the different forms of government and non-state partnerships, the different forms of PPPs that are available. And so this actually helped us to be able to select the case studies we were looking at and also be able to categorize them using this framework. I'm going to be calling on our consultant that worked on this with us. And on the call is Mr. Obina. Are you on the call? Can you speak to see if we can hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Is it clear? Okay.
So
awesome.
Mr. Obina will be taking us through the 10 case studies. This would form part of our final report, but we are just going to highlight these case studies for us to be aware, and then would let us know once we launch the final report. Go ahead, Mr. Obina.
All right. Thank you very much, Larry, and thank you for the wonderful work that you do. I mean, I've known you for so many years, and all of your life has revolved around education, especially in the non-state, affordable non-state sector. So it's such a pleasure. Thank you to all the panelists and everyone who, is on the call. So again, one of the principles that drives us as consultants and that drives me personally is I think that the world already has a lot of, there's a value just trying to, especially when it's in the development sector. A lot of the projects we're trying to run, people have run them in other places before. So, sometimes you just try to get a direction. A good start point is always looking out for what people have done before. And that's what we did with these case studies. So essentially, we have categorized our assessments of these case studies according to the GSF categorization framework. So essentially, they built a system around which we can analyze, government, state and non-state sector partnerships, especially around, the affordable non-state sector. So essentially, they have four broad components, in terms of how these partnerships work. So the first one will be the education components delivered. That's the first kind of structure around which the partnerships can be analyzed. The second one will be the partnership type. And the third one will be the funding modality, so who is actually leading the funding. And the fourth one will be the systems level. What is the scope of these partnerships? So the first one will be on the education components delivered, the teaching, learning materials. I'm just going to run through these quickly so that I can go straight to the individual case studies. So the curriculum resources, the teachers' professional development, outcome-based learning gains, student support services, policy advocacy, equity boost for girls, community engagement, and infrastructure. So these are the types of education outcomes that we found delivered across all case studies. And then in terms of the partnerships, that kind of goes without saying, is either government-led or, private, or what you could call non-state sector-led. In terms of funding, it's either government and non-state, or the non-state, what you can call private, and then government-led. And then systems level will either be national or state or province. So again, at least around these case studies is very clear. For example, in terms of education components delivered, that teachers' professional development is very consistent across most of them. So we have about 80% of the case studies delivering on teachers' professional development. Student support service is another education component that is quite consistent. I think we have about 60% of our case studies delivering student support services. Then another one will be curriculum resources, so development of more relevant curriculum that we find across 40% of our case studies. And then we see splattering of other outcomes,
Obina is not audible enough. Can
yes.
Yeah.
Infrastructure, front school stuff. Can you hear me?
Okay, we were losing you for a bit.
Oops.
Yeah, but we can hear you.
Okay. Now. Can you hear me? Is it clear? Is it clear now?
We lost you around outcome-based learning gains.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was a while ago. Okay, so I was saying that. I apologize. I really apologize for this. I was saying that. In terms of the education components delivered, we found the most evidence of case studies of outcomes like teachers' professional development, student support services, infrastructure. And interestingly, we thought we were going to see more outcomes around infrastructure, given the need, the infrastructure requirements for these schools to achieve their quality expectations. But we saw only about 50% of them delivering infrastructure. And then we see a splattering of a few other outcomes like community engagement like policy advocacy, like curriculum, development of relevant curriculum. So in terms of the outcomes developed, the education outcomes that were delivered, the critical ones were around teachers' professional development. I'd say student support services, infrastructure, and then the development of relevant curriculum. So in terms of the partnership type, a prevailing majority were government-led delivery. So, I mean, what we've seen here is a prevalence of government, because typically when it comes to quality assurance, these schools, so a lot of the delivery will be led by the government. That only makes sense. Now, in terms of the funding modalities, it was spread across. So some were government-led, some were non-state led, and some were kind of hybrid of both government and non-states. And then systems level, again, we see a predominance. About 80% of our case studies were national in scope. So what that meant is most of these partnerships were with national ministries of education, if I could use that term, because essentially they covered the entire country. So in a nutshell, I think the key takeouts with this will be the partnerships have delivered the outcomes. The partnerships have delivered the most are professional development for teachers, support for the students, infrastructure, and then curriculum development. A lot of these partnerships have been government-led and by the private sector or the non-state sector, some led by the government, and then a few of them led by both the government and the non-state sector. And then a predominance has also been from interventions that are national in scope. So in a nutshell, this is a summary of all the case studies. And like Larry said, I think when the final report is presented, the details of all the case studies will be presented in the final report. Thank you. Larry, over to you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, tech has a way of showing itself.
I hope you didn't lose me for too long.
No, not at all. Thank you for still being able to share with us. And so, like we mentioned, this report is still a work in progress. We're just showcasing some of the case studies we're studying for now. But today we're bringing some of these case studies to life through our panel. So we have some of these organizations amongst us who will be sharing their case studies with us, or their organizations with us, and what they're doing. And it will be beyond these ticks and names. We will be able to hear from the organizations themselves during the panel session. And so before we go into this presentation with our partner, I would like to formally introduce our panelist or our presenter, Dr. James. For just 1 minute, I would like you to introduce yourself and PLANE before I bring up your presentation. Dr. James, do you want to go ahead?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to connect with the Global School Forum and all the other panelists on this program. I'm bringing greetings from the British High Commission. PLANE is an education portfolio of the British High Commission, and we will be operating in Nigeria for 7 years. We are already on our 3rd year. We're about concluding 3rd year. So we are spread across close to how many states now? 3 at the north central, 2 at the northeast, and 11 states in the southern region of Nigeria. And we are also working around foundational learning and also governance of state system and non-state system, as well as improve M&E. So it's good to connect with all of you. We are already working with Seed Foundation, Dawn Commission, the Federal Ministry of Education, and also the state government of those 5 states that I've mentioned. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much. So we would go straight into your presentation. Can you see the presentation?
Yes. Can you put it in presentation mode so that it will be large enough?
Yes, working on that.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm talking about the learning curve for Nigerian education PPP models around the world and the Pakistan experience. And around the world, because of the fact that we've experimented some projects from the FCDO or DFID intervention in Punjab and some other part of the world, and also we are also supporting the Federal Ministry of Education, KKJ state, that is Kaduna, Kano, and Jigawa state, as well as the southwestern and southeastern part of the country. So from my background, when we look at it, over the past decade, the signal of PPP in social policy areas such as education have increased in terms of public financing. And for us in the education sector space, like Larry said about what the Minister of Education said about the collaboration of the non-state school is very essential in terms of achieving what the government wants to do in terms of creating equitable access for education. So government virtual initiative can assist students in attending private schools and also school management initiative, which may enhance teacher resource curriculum and teacher resources, like Obina said. Because of time, I'll quickly skip to go to the next slide. So when we look at what the National Development Plan of the country is saying, the National Development Plan of Nigeria, which is a plan between 2021 to 25, is going to lapse this year, is having an investment outlay of 348 trillion, expecting 298 trillion, that's 85% of the implementation funding coming from the private sector. So when you look at the economy of Nigeria, it is private sector driven. And so the government of Nigeria actually believe in the private sector contribution to it. And I will come down to education to talk about what is our own stake, what is our own commitment, how do we see education, how do we see the PPP having a great impact when it comes to education sector? The plan pledges investment of 1.56 trillion naira to use financing model to assist with school infrastructure development. So most of the understanding of PPP is about infrastructure, but we're trying to change the narrative to ensure that there are other focus on the PPP in the education sector. The education sector roadmap, which is also a kind of strategic plan that the Federal Ministry of Education has, also has some PPP objective as part of its focus, and the presidency, that is the federal, the presidency in Nigeria, is actually tracking the implementation of what the FME has in that roadmap, actually as relates to PPP. And so the Federal Ministry of Education has broadened its scope of PPP, which basically was focusing on the infrastructure to focus on some other service related areas to encourage creating equitable access because of the challenge we have when it comes to out of school Nigeria, which is more than 20 million. So it's a kind of embarrassment which the Federal Ministry of Education is trying to now take advantage of PPP to be able to reduce the children that are out of school, create equitable access, improve infrastructure and learning outcomes. Next slide. So there have been some studies that have been conducted. I'm happy that SEED is here. SEED was part of the deepening program that worked between 2010 and 2015. And according to the deepening program from research, when it was done in Lagos, it was revealed that if government were to have provided education for over 7.5 million children attending non-state school in Lagos as at then, just 2015, it will have amounted to 377 billion being spent by government. And that was then when we have just 16,000, when from the annual school census, we could account for just 16,000 non-state schools. But today, Lagos has more than 20,000, in fact, close to 25,000 non-state schools that are operating. So if government were to be the one sending these children to these schools, definitely it will be more than 400 billion that government will be spending. So this is an evidence-based kind of information that have been used to do a lot of advocacy with the government of Lagos State and some other states that we are also working with, like the KKJ state and the federal government, to be able to say, look, the non-state schools are contributing to GDP, they are reducing poverty, they are creating equitable access, they are recruiting teachers, they are doing a lot to be able to address some of the challenges faced in the education sector. So in conclusion, non-state represents significant savings to government, and that has been the advocacy information that I've been passing to government to be able to see them as partners in progress. Next slide. So we want to look at the Pakistan Education Initiative, which of course Obina has talked about the Punjab Education Foundation, which DAI and also FCDO also participated in. From the Punjab Education Foundation, it promotes PPP education for low-income individuals, and more than 2.6 million children were enrolled in partner institutions that were part of the program. Some programs provided education voucher and grants, such as Education Voucher Scheme in 2005, which provided 3.5 to 7 dollars per student in 1,650 schools. And there are some other things that have been done because of time, and some other intervention like the Seed Education Foundation, which was also part of what the FCDO supported to create equitable access, to ensure that children were taken out of the street, enroll in schools, and that they eventually have a lot of improved learning outcomes that I'm going to share with you as I proceed with my presentation. Next slide. So these are the different case studies of EPP products that we have. We have the Punjab Education Foundation. We have the Punjab Education Initiative Management Authority, and all sorts of different products that were presented then. We also have the Sind Education Foundation, as well as the Education Management organization kind of PPP with their special purpose vehicle and different kind of products that they were able to present. And like Obina, I also segmented different kinds of development partner and who is leading it. For the Punjab education one is led by the private sector, and we also have development partner like FCDO and World Bank Group, and the enabling environment that were put in place to ensure that there are a lot of enabling acts. That is the region were able to go to parliament to ensure that they have the heart of the parliament establishing the special purpose vehicle that actually manage this intervention. For the Sind education, we have Adopted School, Charter School, Adult Learning, which is also led by the private sector. We have USAID, FCDO there. And the one that were led by government were the Punjab Education Initiative and the the Sind Education Management Organization kind of intervention, and that one also led to the Sind public-private partnership. There are sometimes that the existing structure like the Ministry of Education may not have the capacity to be able to manage these programs, so eventually there were sometimes that they actually have to go to parliament to be able to get the parliament to put a structure in place and give a pronouncement from the act to enable them to be able to deliver these services. Next slide. So when you look at kind of performance, when you look at the the performance in blue, that's government schools, and the one in red is the non-state schools that they partnered with for the SEND Education initiative. You could see the different kind of performance that when it comes to learning level by school, you see the performance of the children that were able to read, that can read sentences, can read a story. You could see when you look at it holistically, you could see that there's improvement in terms of learning outcomes for those that partner, for the partner schools, the PPP schools that government was able to partner with at a lower cost compared to what government is investing in those schools. Next slide. So what we are saying is that it pays. When you put small cost into PPP, you get a kind of improved learning outcome better than even what government is doing. So what was the situation before and after the PPP? We have children not in school. Pakistan was one of the countries in the world that have highest out of school. In fact, Nigeria and Pakistan are struggling to be to have number 1 and 2 position, and they were the only 2 countries that didn't meet the MDG goals. And so Pakistan was able to quickly look at how they can get these children out of school. Low attendance, poor teaching, insufficient facility, low level of learning. And when you look at what has happened in terms of the intervention and the outcome that it has, we have a higher enrollment, higher attendance, teachers' presence, facility improved, expanded, quality improve, higher learning outcome as demonstrated. Look at the situation of the school before that intervention, and when you look at at the picture at the upper level, you will discover that there's a great transformation. They have teaching learning materials, the teachers are there, they are present, there's improved attendance and also improved learning outcomes. And that is what government should take advantage of to be able to ensure that it's not just creating equitable access, but about ensuring that the children have access to learning materials and that they are learning with qualified teachers teaching them, and also that they are able to improve in terms of learning outcome. Next slide. So what are the PPP model? A lot, and I'm being very careful because of the time allocated. A lot of models are available in Nigeria, but we've not gotten to the stage of Pakistan because we were just experimenting different sort of models right from 2008 in Nigeria to date, different sort of thing. But of recent, based on what Larry just talked about, what the Federal Ministry of Education is doing, and before that, at KKJ level, we've been able to model some things with the state government and also supported the state to have policy and to have a PPP forum put in place for them to have the skill to be able to engage the private sector, and for the public sector to also engage the non-state schools. So, and this has happened through a lot of support, like the non-state school policies that have been put in place in close to 7 states in Nigeria, and of course the national one that was approved by the National Council on Education and launched last week. And so these were some of the pronouncements from the Federal Ministry of Education through the Honorable Minister, that FME plan practical support and incentive for private school operators, among which are direct reimbursement for enrolling out-of-school children with implementation targeted for 2020-25 to 26. So this one is expected to start immediately in September. This is the very first time in Nigeria where government will want to put children in private school. It has been experimented before where the Sangaya schools are having a kind of partnership with JUBEL for them to receive support in terms of infrastructure, teaching learning materials, and teachers to train in the Sangaya space, which have thousands of schools in the north. But when we are talking of private school, this is the very first time, and the fallout was because of the national non-state school policy that was launched last week. There is also direct grant and voucher system and through the Universal Basic Education to support privately owned early childhood development center, which will be granted to non-state schools. So this is also another kind of intervention in Nigeria where government has made it a kind of policy directive that private schools that are having kindergarten, early child care development center will be supported. Children that are in those spaces will be supported. They will be they will be enrolled, and the schools will be supported with a lot of incentive. Then number 3 is education service delivery initiative. For this is a kind of support where government agencies like QEDA and some other agencies are supporting non-state schools with teacher development, with teaching learning materials being distributed.
You have a minute to go. Let's.
Okay, so I'm almost rounding up. Then we also have philanthropic initiative where foundations like Owando Foundation, Dangote Foundation, companies, banks are already having a lot of incentive, a lot of support. It could be teaching learning material, it could be edtech resources coming to the government, to non-state schools to be able to support. And we have infrastructure initiative where the private sector are also doing a lot of renovation, a lot of support to the non-state school. We have professional development support, like I said, where the KKJ state have created what we call the innovation hub, where teachers capacity building, school managers capacity building, and edtech resources and school information system were deployed from government agencies to non-state schools for them to be in line with what is going on. I will skip this so that I can just go to some of the things that are necessary for this to be done. What is PLANE strategic role? Like I said, we've assisted Education Ministry to design innovative PPP models and demonstrate intervention that attract private sector investment, and this is already yielding a lot of benefit. We have assisted the Nigerian government to incorporate PPP into their education sector plan. We've supported policy development, created opportunities, and we are already working with the telecommunication companies to be able to create zero-rated access for teachers to have access to free data, free phones, to be able to have access to a lot of edtech spaces, like some of the e-learn spaces that we have that have been created at the national level. Then we have also contributed to capacity development for these teachers and school managers to be able to carry out their services. And just like Obina said, we are also exploring some other financing options coming from the Bank of Industry, from the Vice President Office for these non-state schools to be able to have access to a lot of loans and grants so that they can survive. And we are working with the Lagos State government around Education Outcome Fund, which is also going to be introduced to the education landscape, targeting non-formal and non-state schools to be able to reduce children that are out of school. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. I'm sure that we've all had a great time so far, and we've gained from this presentation. We're excited to have this presentation to showcase what is happening in Nigeria so far. Just for us to note, if we have any questions, when I started, I mentioned that you can use the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen to share your questions, and we will take it during the Q&A time. And we're moving fast now. We are about to commence the panel sessions, and this is an exciting time. Like I said, we are bringing our case studies to life. We're not just talking about it and presenting it. We are going to be speaking to some of the individuals that will share the case studies for us. And they will be able to share with us what is really, really happening. And to moderate this session, I have Mr. Nuruddin Lawal, the founder and team lead of QEDA. And on the call, I have Christopher from the Education Outcomes Fund, Joseph from Peace Uganda, and Rahila from the Citizens Foundation in Pakistan. So I'm excited that we already talked about Pakistan and we have Rahila here with us. So I'll just let Nuruddin take on the session. Nuruddin, are you with us? Can you put on your video? Are you with us? Can you hear us? If you're speaking, you're muted. Oh, okay, we just lost Nuruddin. We'll give him 1 second to come on board. Nuruddin, can you hear us?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Take out the AI. Take out the AI. It's causing trouble. Don't let it speak in. It's really causing trouble for me here.
It's fine. Taking out your AI.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. It's really this is a unique experience for all of us, and I want to welcome everyone once again to this webinar. It can't be too timely at a time when funding has really reduced, and we need to start being very creative about how to fund education. And I think this is about education financing to a very great level, and we have to be very creative about how we finance education, because education is an equity issue, and we need to get our financing right, and we need to look for the creative ways to do this. And one of them is through public-private partnership. I want to welcome everyone online, and I know that there are people joining as groups across the states. I want to welcome all the SUBEP chairmen and the commissioners hearing, and everyone that is joining from across the world. I know there are people outside of Africa and within Africa that are joining. Now, we have here for you a very an expert panel that will be discussing how we carry out harness education public-private partnership with particular case studies. And I'm going to ask each of the panelists, starting with Christopher, to very well tell us about yourself, your organization, the model that your organization has adapted in PPP, and the experience you've gotten there about. You have 3 minutes. I'm going to be very strict with that to do this. So Christopher, then I have Joseph, then is that Obina? The next
Rahila.
Rahila is the third panelist to go. Please go ahead. Don't let me take too much of your time. Over to you, Christopher.
Thanks so much. And just to echo what you've said, it's a real privilege to be here today, and I think it's coming at an amazing time. Given we've only got 3 minutes, I'm going to try and give you probably the world's fastest overview of an outcomes funding model. We are the Education Outcomes Funds, and we deliver outcomes funds in education. That's our mandate. And I really wanted to give you an example of what we do, just to drive this point of how public partnerships can be done. This is an example of that model within education. So, as you'll see directly in front of you, outcomes lie at the centre of an outcomes fund. We work and partner with governments to define what these outcomes are. Really, by focusing on outcomes, we believe that connects payments with the impact achieved. And so to that end, this fund pays directly for final impact, and that's centered around education, primarily around learning. So still focusing on that right-hand side, to achieve that outcome, we believe in these education PPPs, and we think that, and Lanre, to use your words, education, the government is the custodian of education, but they can't do it alone. We really believe that implementing partners have a role to play in driving that impact and seeing learning being achieved. So what we do through an outcomes fund is we define the outcome. That might be, say, learning gains for children in schools that they're working in. But then we allow them to have the flexibility in how they achieve that outcome. And that really allows them to focus on delivering the interventions that fit their community. What we do, though, is measure the impact. And it's really important that we do this through an independent evaluator, and they come in and they look at the schools and they measure whether the learning has been achieved. That also has an added benefit of really generating rigorous evidence of what works. And given that it's high stakes, we really need to do that robustly. So a big part of what we do is just measuring whether or not those results have been achieved. The next stage here is that the outcomes funding is released. So, we let the implementing partners go out, or the model lets the implementing partners go out and figure out the best way to achieve the impact in the schools they're working in. And once that gets achieved, the outcomes funding is dispersed. And I guess one note to say on that is, and a kind of a recommendation for us, is that through these outcomes funds, we always have co-funding from government to ensure we have that collective buy-in. And once those outcomes are achieved, the funding is dispersed. And a final point on this is what we've seen is that, these implementing partners are sometimes only seeing the results after 1 and 2 years because we're so interested in that final impact. And as a consequence of that, they have to take on that initial upfront capital, or they need to be required to have it. And one thing we really wanted to do when we were building this type of model was ensure that smaller organizations or local organizations could access this type of fund. And the way we do that is by introducing impact investors into the fund. And what they do is they provide the upfront capital to the implementing partners so they can go on and concentrate on the work of delivering on the outcomes. And then once those results are achieved, that impact investor receives that return on investment. I'm not too sure how long I've got, but that was a very whistle-stop tour.
You've used your time up, Christopher.
I've used my time. All right. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Joseph, you have a model that I'm in love with. Please introduce yourself, your organization, and your approach. Quickly, 3 minutes.
Thank you so much, Nordin. Joseph Mwegombi, System Strengthening Manager, PEAS Uganda. PEAS is not for a profit social enterprise focusing on expanding secondary education opportunities for those students who need it most across Africa. And we are currently working in Uganda since 2008, Zambia and Ghana through the System Strengthening Program. Now, PEAS is currently partnering with the Directorate of Education Standards to support 200 government and 15 private secondary schools through the Inspect and Improve project. The origin of the Inspect and Improve project was birthed out of an identified gap that was aligned to government priorities under the Ministry of Education and Sports. Now, all we needed to do as PEAS was to prove that we have a model that works to fix that gap without imposing it on government. And that is how we started the partnership that has led to the increase in schools to the current 215. How the approach works, we start the initiative with a school inspection, which is co-delivered between PEAS and the Directorate of Education Standards. And the purpose of this inspection is to identify the strengths that the schools need to uphold and any areas for improvement that the schools need to work on to do better. Now, when the inspection report is generated, it supports the generation of a school improvement plan, which is delivered through a training for school leaders to understand the approach of its generation. The reference to data is very critical in the generation of this, the school improvement plan, because the outcomes of the inspection report and the recommendations therein inform the activities that will be adopted in the school improvement cycle. So it is after the sign-off and approval of the school improvement plan that the implementation journey starts. And the implementation journey has mechanism to support, monitor, and track the implementation of the activities that are set within the school improvement plan. So school leaders are guided around ensuring that in their planning, they consider activities that are within their resource envelope, that they are not overstretched in terms of budget, but they work with dynamics within school operations that they're able to achieve.
What's her name?
Go ahead.
And then, all right. So then we adopt a mechanism through which we monitor, support, and review progress of the operations at school level through a mechanism within the school and outside the school that supports the monitoring of the implementation of the school improvement plans. At the end of the journey, the SIP run is a cycle of 1 year. And the whole purpose in this journey is to make sure that the school leaders are equipped and supported to lead change, and that change is manifested through attainment by learners at the end of their cycle.
Thank you very much, Joseph.
Thank you.
The model is exciting to me, and it's very experiential, it's on ground, it's on point, and that is why we've asked you to come here to share this model, and we'll dig more into that model as we go on. Thank you and welcome again. Rahila, Fatima, over to you. I'm sure we have a lot to learn today from you. Please go on, Rahila.
You're muted, Rahila.
Yeah, your name, your organization, and the approach.
Yes, thank you, Nudin. I would try to do it as quickly as possible. I have sent a link to you, Lane. If you could open that, or if you could let me share the screen, I can probably just go through a couple of slides while we do that. My name is Rahila Fatma. I've been part of the organization now for a good 19 years. It's a 30-year-old organization. And today, the Citizens Foundation has schools across Pakistan. And we have close to 2,200 plus schools, where as of today, 300,000 children are enrolled across Pakistan. So I'm not sure if I'm given the space to share.
Yes.
Oh, I can? Oh, great. And I share this.
Yes.
Can you guys see?
Yes.
Okay.
Very well.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So I'll just quickly take you through this slide. And I'm purposely not actually doing a lot with technology, so I'm not putting it on a slideshow. So just quickly telling, this is an older number. Today we have crossed 2,200 schools, and we have more than 3,000 kids. We have all female faculty, close to 5,000. We are today the largest female employer within the country. Not only we have female faculty, we have a predominantly female staff also. So out of the 22,000 employees of the organization, we have close to 17,000 women working. We have 63,000 graduates who have about 76% of the graduates are those who have reached tertiary education, actually. So other than within the schools, we work with the communities, we work for adult literacy. Our program is called Agahi, which translates into English as awareness. It's a 4-month basic literacy program. We do predominantly for girls age 15 and plus and women, because their window of coming to school has closed, actually. The other thing we do is we do clean drinking water. We do water plants, and we have benefited about 80,000 plus people. And we also have started lately vocational training for the communities. So this is very, very quickly. I will not go to the strategy. I would quickly tell you the model. So all our schools are purpose-built, ground up. The community, we encourage community to donate the land. We bring a built donor, and we create the school. This is, Nurdin, where you, when you said finances is a huge element in education, and the government constantly struggle to bring finance to expand schools and finance for development. A lot of government finance education budgets are recurring budgets that go into salaries and stuff. Budgets for development are very low in Pakistan, at least. And still today we have about anything between 23 million to 25 million children out of school. So you can imagine it's a huge undertaking. And we don't know how many schools we need for that. We need lots of them, actually. So we have textbooks, we have customized textbooks and digital learning material drawing upon the national curriculum. We have all female faculty that has been instrumental in bringing the girl child to school and stay in school, actually. We have a very robust teacher training mechanism, which starts from their pre-service training to and year-on-year in-service training. We have a leadership program for principals also. We have a earlier program around play-based training. We have partnered with the Right to Education also at some point in time and learn things from them and so on. I could see RTE in the case study that was being shared. We do digital literacy, Scratch coding for secondary schools children. So we do that. So it's a very interesting model where we have a huge movable trolley kind of a thing that stacks about 35 tablets. We have a curriculum. We have offline programs as well as online, because connectivity is a challenge. And that's been something that we recently did. We are now getting into an impact study of how this has been going on. It's been 4 years that we did that.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. Okay, though I stopped.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I have to take it later. No, I perfectly respect that. Thank you.
Thank you. These models are very unique, each one. We have a partner who is more of a funder from the UK. We have Rahila with the citizenship education, doing community-based schooling in Pakistan. And we have my brother, Joseph, doing the activity in Uganda, and that is the peace activity. Now, I'm going to be asking Christopher the next question. Christopher, how do you see the role of outcome fund evolving in the education sector? And this is very, very directed because we know the paucity of fund. We know the fact that USAID is no longer in the scene. We know that even for those that are there, they're cutting down support for education in terms of funding. How do you see your role in the funding within the education sector? And what emerging trend and innovation will shape the future of outcome-based financing? And we also I think we can also say it's an innovative financing model. And how can government ensure long sustainability? Looking at it, this is a lot of questions, and I hope you'll be able to at least get something and you respond to that, because we have so many government partners here, and they need to know that things are changing. And I think this is also in tandem with the current funding within the Nigerian cycle that is coming in for education. There is no longer free money. You have to show willingness to show results. So please go ahead, Christopher.
Fabulous. Thanks, Nurdin. I think you covered some of the key points already there. I mean,
I'm sorry, Christopher. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, let me jump in. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we need to face the reality that, at least for the time being, we are working in a constrained funding environment. Now, outcomes funds don't work in absolutely every context, but what they do enable, and this is perhaps speaking from the funder side or the government side, is they do demonstrate results and they do demonstrate impact. At least they don't pay unless impact is observed. So what we can learn from this is quite a favourable environment for funders, philanthropy, governments, because they know that the money that they're paying will achieve the results, because if the results aren't achieved, the payment won't be made. So I think in this changing landscape, we think that not in every context, but outcomes funds can provide a context in which it's a more favourable setting for your funders. And I think that's something for us all to be aware of as we're looking to develop these programs and achieve this ambition, is by focusing on that final impact, we can actually drive further investment. And that's ultimately what we want. We really want more going towards achieving the ambitions in policy around education. I think the second, and again, I'm just focusing on the outcomes fund modality, this kind of innovative financing, is we see the way the education sector evolving is focusing more on data, learning, and adaptation. And what that means is, as we're looking to demonstrate results and evidence, organizations are going to be looking more to look at the data and to adapt from that. Again, from our perspective, by focusing on that final outcome or that final impact, we give the freedom to different implementing partners to look at the data and then course correct. And that's something we really want to invite. We know that learning hasn't always been achieved, despite large amounts of funding being spent on it. And by changing the question around, okay, we want you to focus on that final impact, we want you to get the learning gains, and we give you the freedom to do so. And by generating evidence on what works, we hopefully see this kind of pendulum shift towards using that data in real time to course correct and drive impact. And I'll stop there.
You're muted, Nuruddin.
You a couple of follow-up questions, and that is who and how is the impact funder sourced, and who does the evaluation to know whether impact has been achieved?
Thanks. So as part of EOS role, we identified the funders, and they come from a range of different sources. And I think, as I mentioned, the good thing about an outcomes fund is its ability, as we've seen, to mobilize unconventional funding sources. So philanthropy is more and more so. We're just designing a fund in Nigeria, and we've got a fund that's made up so far of a number of different organizations, but it includes SIF, which is a philanthropy in the UK, and also the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board. So they're the two co-funders that come to achieve the outcome. So it's relatively unusual in that capacity, but we see a full range of funders. So, ranging from your FCDOs of the world to your Lego foundations, say. So that's the general funders. And as I say, they will pay once that final impact is achieved, and only once that final impact is achieved. In order to do that, as you said, Nuruddin, we need to measure the results robustly and actually independently. Because it's kind of high stakes, we really want to rely on the independent verification of those results. And we use a range of different independent evaluators. So, in some of our programs that are like to touch, we can rely on organizations like KPMG, but in others, it's sort of more rigorous, the Genesis of the world, the OPMs of the world. Again, the real benefit of that is from both the government's perspective and the implementing partner's perspective, they can go out and really focus on driving impact, on doing the work of the doing, and the independent evaluator can measure the results, and we can use that to see what's working and generate, future impact going forward. I hope that answers your question.
It does answer my question very well, Christoph. You're not off the hook yet, because I'll be going on to Christopher after I'll be going on to Joseph after this. But quickly, can states and individuals in Nigeria approach EOF if they have an impact investor?
If they have an impact investor?
Yes.
even if they don't have an impact investor, yes, they can approach EOF. So it's talking specifically about our fund in Nigeria at the moment. The timeline is, such that we are currently looking for implementing partners, and we will be going through the RFP process later this year. And so the implementing partners' role in this program will be to support the reintegration of out-of-school children into school and retain them for 2 years, and then support learning in those schools. And so we've got the funding side locked up, and now we're looking to design that type of program. So yes, is the short answer.
Yeah, thank you very much, Christopher. I'll move on to Peace, Uganda. Joseph, you've heard what Christopher has talked about, and I'm sure that you beg them to come to Uganda right now. Your question is, your organization is doing wonderfully well, using a community approach and transforming a community approach into government partnership. I think that is great. And my question is, what enabled this shift for you? What did you have to change in the ways you work? And how did you get government partnership? I think that is very interesting, that you're able to get government partnership using having done a community-based activity. And yeah, the government buy into it, and then you are now doing it with government as a partner. What enabled this shift? What did you have to change in the ways you work? And how did you get the shift? Over to you, Joseph.
Yeah, thanks very much, Narudin. First of all, I need the participants to appreciate that we run a network of 30 schools, and it is the evidence that operates in these schools that we picked to sell beyond our network. Now, for us to be able to achieve that, we have to make sure that the operations within our schools is outstanding, such that it is sellable, that we have a good point of reference to create the evidence that is required for the products that we sell to government. Now, to come to your question, Narudin, first of all, we had to identify a gap. Our approach and the engagement with government started with identification of a critical gap within the inspectorate, which is the quality assurance arm of the Ministry of Education and Sports. And this gap needed to align properly to the government priorities. And that was how the inspectorate manages the post-inspection processes, which was not very effective, and they needed to mitigate that gap. And luckily enough, Peace had a model that would perfectly address that gap. So this is how government picked interest in our work. After that gap was identified at DES around supporting schools to manage post-inspection processes, we would then be in position to effectively address the inspection recommendations using the school improvement plan. The school improvement plan approach is the magic bullet that helped our school network to address recommendations that come from the inspections that are conducted. And it is that model that we are currently piloting in the 215 government and non-state secondary schools, with great impact according to testimonies and evidence and the evaluation findings that have been conducted in the schools where the pilot is being conducted. The school improvement plan implementation cycle, as I just explained it a while ago, is only effective when it is effectively addressed by the school leaders and with effective monitoring by support teams to track at the level of progress, identifying the gaps in time, and being able to mitigate those gaps such that at the end of the cycle of 1 year, we are in a position to evaluate the level of impact that that particular school improvement plan has caused through addressing the recommendations that were initially addressed during inspections. So that is how the cycle runs, and that gives the history of how PEAS was able to partner with the government through the Directorate of Education Standards by supporting the department to address a gap that had been identified. Now, in achieving this, we had to come up with principles to govern us, to help in the process of delivery of this project. Remember, this is a partnership between PEAS and DES. Now, for us to be in position to work collaboratively, we had to make sure that the fact that we are introducing a new program within the government parameters, we had to keep ourselves in a position of vulnerability such that we allow learning to take place. And in doing so, we had lots of criticisms coming through because we had approaches that couldn't be well conceived. For example, our model emphasized that for an inspection to effectively take place, there should be a lesson observation session that inspectors do by entering class to observe lessons. Now, that was completely a new feeling by the directorate, and it took them time to appreciate that actually it is an approach that works. But over time, through training, through mentoring and coaching around these processes, the inspectors eventually got the buy-in, and now the current inspection tool, which government is currently using, has actually adopted these processes, including the lesson observation proforma, which is part of the practice in school during inspection. And now the inspection tool also tracks the level of progress of the school improvement plan. Those are current additions, which we currently count as part of impact of the intervention of I&I in the schools.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I'll be asking my next question. Joseph, by the way, I'm really very interested in, and I know that the audience, they're quite interested about this model of partnership where you are supporting school you are supporting school effectiveness, basically school leadership and all of that. I will be asking the Citizenship Foundation, represented by Rahila, if you could advise future organizations aiming to partner with government, what is one conventional piece of wisdom you will challenge, and why, drawing on your experience on the GSP PPP model, or adopting and upgrading underperforming public schools? I don't know whether you get that. That is a very long question.
You're muted.
Okay, so if I rephrase, Noordine, you would like me to share a piece of advice for organization partnering with the government based on our learning and experience. That's the first one. If I got it correct.
Yeah,
the second. Yes. So I'll deal with this first. So I think I would build on what Joseph said. As an organization, you first need to be very clear of your strengths. And if you are also able to demonstrate your strengths as proof of concept, no matter how large or small. So in case of Citizens Foundation, Pakistan is a very geographically very diverse country. And one thing which the government always challenges is that it's difficult to operate in the terrains that government operate. And usually organizations don't know that. So we have schools on top of hills and in riverbeds and in desert and in cities and in villages. So one thing which we were able to do was to establish a proof of concept. At the same time, everyone needs to be humble to know that there would be gaps, and when you would work with the government, you would learn also. But to be able to put something on the table for the government that works, that has been successful, and that demonstrate the strength for the partnership to be forged. I think that is very important. At times, we have seen in Pakistan, and I'm not sure about others, that the energy and the excitement to partner with the government at times takes you to paths which you have not tread yourself well, and that's where you struggle. So that's I would like to share that in our case, we established the first 1,000 schools as we committed, and then went to government. Today, out of the 2,200 schools we have across Pakistan, about 500 of them are in government partnerships also. Our government partnerships came much later, in the 21st year of the organization, because we started off in 1996 by saying the rallying cry was that we will establish 1,000 schools across Pakistan. We did that, and then we went to the government, and now we are growing our partnerships with the government, and we are learning, and we are humble, and we are learning and improving so much through that partnership also. But we have something to put forward also of our own. So that's where I think it resonates with what Joseph said. Your second part of the question, you have to repeat for me, please, Nordin.
Okay. The second part of the question says that drawing on your experience from the GSP PPP model of adopting and upgrading underperforming public schools, what do you advise those working in kind of the condition you work in? What advice do you have for them?
Well, here I would say I don't have an advice, but I can share our experience a bit, because public-private partnership, the nature of public-private partnership and where they stand in terms of their maturity varies from country to country. So in Pakistan, the public-private partnership started in the 90s. Like late 90s with Sindh Education Foundation, starting off with a doctor school model, and then Punjab Education Foundation picking it up, and then creating their own models also, and so much. So we stand at a very different point in time compared to other countries where some would be ahead and some would be catching up. So I think for us, what is really important is the kind of agreement we are getting in. We need to be. We have tried, and we had our own share of struggles also, but it's important to understand what kind of a partnership you're getting into, and yes, the government is, at the end of the day, is the government, and they could do things outside that agreement also. But I think it's important to be very aware of what you are getting into, in terms of at times the government's interest is on a BT model, like a build transfer model, instead of a BTO model, which is build, transfer, and operate. So looking at our capacity, what is that we can do best? What is our donors, the funds we are bringing in, and the donors we are kind of bringing into this partnership? What do they feel and think working with the government? In our case, our donors were concerned with a BT model, build and transfer, because they had seen the affairs at the government schools, the learning standards, the maintenance, and everything, and particularly the learning standards and the affairs of the horrible affairs of the government schools, the way they were managed. Unfortunately, I'm using this word, but high absenteeism of the teachers, not coming to school, not teaching children, and so on. So they were very eager. If we go into a model, we go in a BTO model, where if we are building, the BOT, sorry, we are building, we are operating, and after a while, after things are sustained, like a 20-25 years, where we have brought the community to that level also, where they have the ownership, and they would, kind of push the government when it's transferred to them and they are running it to continue and sustain. So, like it could be 10 years, it could be 20, depending on how the community shapes up. So these are the things I think are important. And again, this is schooling, formal schooling. PEAS is a model where they got into a monitoring and evaluation, or an assessment, school assessment or school evaluation model, where you would look at other things. So this is what I can say at the moment.
I want to say a very big thank you to my panelists. I wish I can go on and on. Each of them will take an hour if I have to really engage with them. I think, thank you, Christopher, thank you, Rahila, and thank you, Joseph, for all that you do. And I'm sure that we might do this again and be more specific as to what we want to address. And I'm sure our audience have a lot of questions to ask you. So my takeaway is that strength is a proof of concept. That strength as proof of concept is important. Government should know that public-private partnership can work, and the private organization also should know that it can work also. The funding space is limited, and so we all have to work more closely together. On this note, I want to sign off and say thank you and hand over to Larry. Larry, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. We do have lots of questions and we have run out of time, but we're going to quickly take some questions, comments and questions. For Dr. James Fadokun, some people are quite concerned about the sustainability of the PPP model in Nigeria. You have rolled out quite a number of things, but the concern is being, how, this would be sustained. So these are just comments. There's also a comment around Kano State, saying it has a unique opportunity for E-PPPs, and Kano has the highest rates of out-of-school children in Nigeria and will benefit from, E-PPPs coming to the state. I think Christopher had shared how they're working or planning to work in Lagos on out-of-school children. So this is just to note that Kano might be your next foray in Nigeria. So I'd like to quickly, if you have a question, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. But I'm going to quickly go into the questions in the group. Mr. Nojim Oresajo, you add a question in the Q&A, but you also raise your hand. So please unmute yourself and ask your question to any of the panelists. Very quickly. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah,
Please go ahead.
this is Dr. Nojim from NAEPA Ondo.
All right, thank you, sir.
Firstly, I want to commend the organizer for bringing this type of a program where Nigeria is in need of. Because education is a capital project. The government alone cannot fund it based on its comprehensiveness and global changes from time to time. My question is this: if government will be enrolling children into private schools with the view of reducing the out-of-school children, what will now be the percentage of governments in these activities, knowing fully well that private schools are being set up for profit-oriented? That's my question. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Who would like to take the answer? Dr. James, do you want to do that? And any other person can chime in. Dr. James, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Oresajo. I think what the government is going to do is to, first of all, try and see their readiness capacity to be able to respond. And to, I think at the federal level, a committee has been set up to look at the cost of what will be given to each of these schools, because when we look at private school, we have different categories. We have the low-cost schools, we have the middle-cost and high-cost schools, and the premium schools. So the government is already working towards paying the unit cost of enrolling a child for like maybe 6 years in at the basic level or secondary level. So there have been a lot of committee to be able to determine that. In my presentation, I was not able to share the unit cost in Punjab as against what the government is giving and what they give to the PPP school. The PPP school actually have lower cost compared to government's cost because of the fact that when you look at the entire cost for education, you know that it's highly capital intensive, like you said. But this time around, the focus is just on supporting the child to enroll in schools, teaching learning materials and things that will make the child to be able to learn at the school level. So government is just bearing some maybe a kind of private cost and some aspect of social cost that should actually come from the parent and the public together. So there will be a kind of unified cost that will be able to show what eventually will be a unit cost of the combination of both the social cost and the private cost, so that government will be able to reach out to these children. It will still be at a minimal cost compared to the cost of the children in public school. So it's going to be lower, and I want to guarantee that there will always be a kind of improvement. And the fact that the agencies that will need to manage it will need to have the capacity to be able to ensure that this is happening, because this is the first time that will be happening in Nigeria. But from the international experience, it has worked and it has delivered a lot of results. It is good for maybe Rahila will from the Pakistan experience share more on this. Thank you. Over.
All right. Any inputs, Rahila, or we take another question?
I think we can take the next question, but I would just like to add that it took the Punjab Education Foundation also years to kind of, work around and all that. And there is still a challenge in terms of the voucher or subsidy they provide, because they have tried to reach out to more and more kids. But there is a challenge among the partners because the subsidy is kind of barely meets basic standards, let alone help increase quality. That is a challenge, and they recognize it also, and they're trying to work around in their other programs. And yes, it's significantly low compared to the government, but probably those needs to be looked at also. The ones they are the vouchers, the amount that they are putting out for the individuals or the organizations, private organizations. Yes.
All right, thank you so much. So in the Q&A section, I have Ian Atfield from FCDO, chiming in. It says he enjoyed the discussion and it would be great to build on the minister's backing and policy declaration to seize the moment. And he thinks that Pakistan offers the best example at scale of government-backed PPPs. So thank you so much, Ian, for chiming in. Amechi, you are free to ask your question. Amechi Okeke, please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Amechi Okeke, the Executive Director for Dream Center for Young Minds. So it's been very, very educating being here, and I enjoyed all the panelists. But I have a problem with adaptation of some of these programs that we take internationally, as it has to do with Nigeria. both the urban and the rural areas. We're having a problem with getting government to fund the education here in the public schools. And now we're trying to have them go into partnership with funding the children in the private schools. Wouldn't that take them away from their primary responsibilities? We've had every government, both state and federal, pronounce education free. But some of us who do this research find out there are hidden charges that are still tied to this education, because you make education free and you're not providing chalks, you're not providing marker, you're not providing anything. So this school to run, they still have to tax these children. So I'm a little bit worried where the government is going most times when they take certain steps. So, and I want to ask Mr. James that I think that sometimes for us to adapt all these new international things that have worked in other countries, we should look at our own internal school system and how it fits. Thank you.
I would ask if Christopher has an insight based on outcomes-based financing and non-state. If you have anything to chime in before I let Dr. James, I'll let him rest a bit. He's been speaking. I would come back to him after to respond. Any insights?
Yeah. Yes, happily. I mean, I agree. I agree with the point. We need to be focusing on a sort of longer term system view, and it's not immediately obvious that pathway through the private sector, through private schools. I think it's also important to recognise that the real world that we live in, private schools, particularly in Lagos State, have offered a alternative and a way for children to receive some sort of schooling as that population change and demographic change has happened. So I think that there is a need to address the pressing concern of finding seats for children that are out of school. But I do think you're absolutely right that we should have this longer term vision of how governments can adopt some of these interventions or these programs long term. And in the fund that we're designing currently in Lagos State, we are working primarily in public schools, and that really is to try and find interventions that don't just work in external settings that aren't sustainable, but in those public school systems that can then be converted and absorbed by government. And we hope to learn, we hope to be using non-state actors to figure out what exactly is really working, and then leverage that and kind of treat that as a catalytically to see what government can then take on from there. So it's a really complex question, right? Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah. All right, Dr. James.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. But from the right-based perspective, it is the responsibility of government to actually create equitable access. But when you look at the education landscape in Nigeria as a planner, you will discover that government does not have that space, does not have all the schools to be able to, create equitable access. Like the Lagos one, for instance, where will government get the fund? Where is the land in Lagos for government to be able to house these children, if not for the support that is coming from government? And so for government, it's an embarrassment that we're having 20.5 million children out of school. And when you look at the space available in government school, there is no way these children could be enrolled in this in the existing government structure. We've been advocating for massive enrollment, creating a lot of enrollment drive, but the facilities are not there. And when you even visit some of these schools, you will not see facilities available for these children, no seats. There are some children that are still sitting on the floor, and an analysis of the UBEC intervention fund that have not been assessed in the last 5 years, maybe 10 years, shows that 250 billion UBEC intervention funds have not been assessed by the state government. And so that's a gap, and that's the reason now that government, because of this challenge of out-of-school children, some of them are being explored by terrorists, by bandits to join them and all the rest. So it is the responsibility of government to, as an ad hoc basis, not because of the fact that they want to shift their responsibility to private school, but to at least create that access. It is about creating access, about providing quality, because the private schools owners have the capacity to be able to create, because when you look at their space, some of them are not operating at the highest capacity. That is, they have the carrying capacity for more children, and the space they have can still accommodate more children. So that's the reason why government is taking it as a matter of responsibility to explore the option of using the space of this non-state school. It doesn't mean they are not going to use space of government schools or the non-formal schools that are available, but they felt that in order to quickly mop up, because when you look at what is happening to the Almajiri Commission and out of school, they are already mopping millions of children out of the street. Where will these children be? They cannot all be in government structure. Some of them will be there. Some of them are also, I mean, they will need a lot of support from other existing structure, like the SAMI structure, that's the non-formal structure, the government structure, and private structure. These are the only outlets that can accommodate these children. So it doesn't mean that government is not taking up its responsibility appropriately, but government is just looking at the various options that are available for them to be able to ensure that these children have access to quality education.
Thank you so much. We have multiple questions, and we're 15 minutes out of time. I would like to thank everyone. Mr. Oji, I see your question in the comments. We would address all of the questions. We'll get back to you. We'll share the recording. We're uploading it to YouTube. The E-PPP report, we're working on it. We're going to factor in all of these, your questions, as we try to address this critical issue and ensure that E-PPPs work in Nigeria. Just like Dr. James said, when it comes to issues like out-of-school children, it's becoming a disgrace. I mean, it was Pakistan and Nigeria that were in that top one list at one point, where we're all discussing out-of-school children, but we need to find a solution that can work and work now. I want us to quickly, as we take one more question, I want to launch a poll so that we all respond. It's a 2-question poll, and please just respond. And while we are responding, I would allow Mr. Odeyemi Richard to talk and ask his question while we take 2 minutes to respond to the poll. You should be seeing the poll on your screen now. Mr. Odeyemi Richard, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Are you able to unmute yourself? Okay. While we're waiting for people to respond to the poll, I'll allow Norna Awor to ask a question. Just 2 minutes and we'll be wrapping up.
Thank you. I just want to think that part of our challenge, I'm talking about Nigeria now, may be that government has not come to the realization of having to take education as being a serious business. Because if they do, yes, some of the states will still have the challenges that they have, but quite a number of states in Nigeria will probably not have a challenge of having to have out of children in the number in which we have it. But my major interest is that even when this partnership come in the manner in which they have come, looking at other African countries where we've had this similar experience, what is the area of interest in government when it comes to funding? Because I also want to be sure that we are not targeting the soft end of the support for the schools. Thank you very much.
Okay, who would like to? Joseph, he mentioned other African countries. I picked that up. Do you have anything to share? Did you get his comment? You're muted.
Can I get a summary of the question, please? I think I missed out something.
Norna, do you want to just give a short recap?
Okay. I said, from your experience in the country where this has been practiced, what has been government's side of interest? Because when you talk about funding, it could come in terms of, do you want to provide the infrastructure? Do you want to provide the support? So that itself would give a better context to the understanding of the support that government itself is bringing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nona. I think the point of interest for government varies depending on priorities. For example, if I take the case of Uganda, government's interest would be so much in supporting soft skills, like the current approach that PEACE is doing to build the capacity of the school leaders, and then reach their ability to support their teachers to impact positively in the classrooms. But at the same time, it is overwhelmed by shortage of infrastructure, and yet, in partnering with an organization like a PEACE, our focus may not necessarily be on supporting infrastructure provision, because that's not part of our mandate as an organization. So depending on priorities that our government has, and also the kind of partnership that is being developed between a particular organization and the interest of that organization in meeting the gaps identified within the system. So it wouldn't be a specific thing, but it varies depending on priorities by the government in question.
Thank you so much, Joseph. And I think we can keep going on and on and on and on, and we're almost 1 hour, 45 minutes in. So thank you, everyone. Like I mentioned, we are excited about today. I think we need to have another conversation. Quite a number of people have so many questions, so many comments, and I believe that as we've sparked interest in education, public-private partnerships, I believe that we're going to explore more. We're going to look at case studies. We're going to continue to advise governments. In the comment section or Q&A section, I've seen many government participants on the call that have talked about how, how can we really have PPPs that work? How can we ensure that we are able to push the public sector to release funds for effective collaboration? How can we ensure technical support? All of that, all of the concerns. But if we do not try, we would not know what the outcomes will be. So there are quite a number of pilots. I'm excited about the Education Outcomes Fund for Lagos, addressing out-of-school children. We'll share more about their work. And if you're interested as an implementing partner, I think the portal is still open for early engagement. We would also continue to work on the report. We would share that with all of the people that have registered on this call, this webinar, once it's ready. And all of the states that are interested in one form of E-PPP or the other, based on the minister's pronouncement during the launch of the non-state policy, we would also be willing to continue the conversations. We would also share the link. Some people in the comments ask for the link to the non-state policy that was launched. We will also share with all of the participants, just in case you're interested in downloading the non-state policy. But overall, I'd like to thank everyone for joining this call, the presenter, Obina, Dr. James, our moderator, Nuruddin, our amazing panelists, Rahila, the only female among the men, did extremely well, Joseph, Christopher, and all of the amazing participants, our partners, Global Schools Forum, PLANE, Salbona, QEDA, everyone has done amazing today. I am so overwhelmed, excited by, all what we've been able to achieve today. So I would like to say a big thank you for joining. And if you have questions, please feel free to still ask us questions, contribute to our research as we develop the E-PPP report. Please reach out to us. We're excited about this. And I would like to give Dr. Adediran the final opportunity to just share maybe a vote of thanks and thank you on behalf of the participants as we close. And thank you all for filling the poll. We're excited about what we're seeing and encouraged. Dr. Sullivan, you need to just unmute and just share a vote of thanks for us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is very refreshing. It's nice always to have beautiful minds like this, learning new things. I've learned quite a lot, and I'm sure that it's not a wasted time. I have gained a lot. I have seen people say things I don't even know. I am very deficient in a lot of things. Last week, we were in Lagos at the Basic Education Bold Actions. And it's amazing that you sit there and say, wow, so I'm so deficient. So thank you very much, making this an opportunity for everyone to learn. And I hope that we'll have more of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day, everyone. And thank you for joining in. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And bye.